the inside scoop with Alex and Jeff.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Inside Scoop with Alex and Jeff. I am Alex Dingman.
I am Jeff Doss. Welcome, everyone. This is Inside Scoop. And you know what? We are going to have another amazing episode tonight. We have all kinds of different news that came out last week. And we have, you know what? We're going to have a fun episode of sharing about the legacy of Larry Carnahan and NASKA. And touching a little bit on, what we are excited about in the future. I'll tell you, if you guys have not shared the show right now, go ahead, click that on Facebook, YouTube, wherever, share it, let everybody know you're watching with us. Comment, tag somebody, tag your best friend. What's up, Andrew? How are you? And then we're going to have a fun talk as well. We'll go ahead and get you guys, tee you up, get you guys ready for this, because we are going to talk about the best 13 and under competitors of all time, phenoms, superstars.
Yeah.
And we're going to compare a little different to since they switched it over to 13 under from 17 under. Let's think about back in the day, there were people that were 8, 9, 10 years old that would win grands against 17-year-olds or 18, and where that has changed. Are there people that could have done that? The only time we really see that is at Warrior Cup. So we're going to discuss that later on, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So get some names ready, and we're going to have some fun. All right.
And for real, insiders, throw us some names that you're like, oh, that you guys probably forgot about, because while Jeff doesn't forget anything, I forget some things. Heck, I forget some stuff I even say. Bernadette Ambrosia is absolutely right, Andrew. She's fantastic. She is one of the original phenoms.
Yeah, it's true. And it's kind of funny because when I came into the sport, as a black belt in 94, I was 10. I think she might have been her first year in the 15-17 division.
Because that's what they were. Yeah.
Right. So at that point, she has won some grands, 90, 91, I think. She had been on stage a bunch back then. So you're talking about, 10, 11, 12. So yeah, definitely.
And we'll get into that.
Yep. All right. Wow. We just went from 5 to 33. That is great. All right. So first off, before we want to a big shout out and big thank you to Ocean State Grand Nationals. We are super excited. I just put out a video today that we had on the show with Christine talking about, again, the Kevin Thompson Award. Make sure you guys bring your team. All you got to do, bring a team of 5, bring a school of 5. And guess what? You can go and get that Kevin Thompson Award and give it to the person that you want to shout out on your team. And I think it's really cool that Ocean State does this. And I'm just excited overall about this event.
I love the ideas of an award named after somebody within our sport.
Yes.
We do have the Ken Eubanks Award, which I think is fantastic. I think the Ken Eubanks Award of sportsmanship, I think, is fantastic. Do we have other awards in our sport, for our sport, named after somebody within our sport? Right? It would be silly to have something called the Jean-Claude Van Damme Award. That wouldn't make any sense,
Yeah, the AOK has done for years the Greek Award, which was the guy, somebody help me out here, Demetrius. They was called the Greek, right? And he was one of the best kickboxing legends back in Texas. And if you win the Greek Award, that means you are the competitor of the year for AOK of all the state of Texas. So that's been something that still goes to this day. So yeah, so that's pretty cool. I'm not sure. I feel like there are some other ones, but I feel like we need to continue doing that, but yeah. And yeah, congrats, Andrew, on that. That's definitely a cool thing. And I remember being there when you got that. So
That was a cool year.
that was a cool year. So,
but even then, so let's look at that. So the Diamonds has the Ken Eubanks Award, all right? But Ocean State Grand Nationals, like it's not like, oh, you at the end of the year, like no, it is at the Ocean State Grand Nationals, and it's what I like about the specifically is that any
Mike just went weird.
What's that?
There you go. You're good.
Oh, okay, cool. Is there anybody on your team you can name for anybody on your team, who you can make it like the star athlete or the one who rallies everyone around? Because really, if you think about Kevin Thompson was all of those things, right?
Correct.
And even as an outsider looking in at the team, watching how he operated within the team, like, why would you not want that guy on the team? Like, he's a phenomenal guy to have on your team. Like, just looking at it, you're like, he's camaraderie, right? He have anything to do with that division. Like, he's right there being the cheerleader. And by the way, he's a phenomenal performer and athlete and competitor who's also winning, right? So love that. Not to mention the decades of success that he has had. Great that we have an award there named after him.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. And I think it's a really cool thing for everyone to, not only to get that award, but also just for like to award that. It's been pretty cool the past couple of years to be able to award that award to one or two of our teammates. So pretty cool.
If there's another tournament that should have an award, like what should this tournament have as an award? Who should they name? I mean, the only thing I could think of would be like AKA having the John Sharkey Award.
Yeah. That would definitely be cool.
Yeah, that definitely would be a great idea, right?
Yeah.
But like, what other if this tournament or that tournament had an award named after them?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's John Sharkey one would be a great one for like coaches or school owners. Definitely someone like that they want to honor. I think that would be a cool thing.
Maybe the Battle of Atlanta, the Brian Ruth Award, maybe.
Wow, that would. Well, I mean, again, you could do a Joe Corley one. I think they
Joe
did the
Corley.
We did the Joe Louis Award actually when they brought everyone in.
That's right.
The 50th anniversary. Yeah, so there are some things like that. So yeah, so these are pretty cool. These are pretty cool ideas. I like that. I do want to share. That's a good one, Andrew.
Yeah. There we go. Look, now someone's gonna steal it. But good. Go ahead, steal it.
There we go. Yeah, hopefully Hunter's watching, and he can put that, make that a thing. I just want to share a little bit because I know last week we talked about, me being in the the Ocean State Hall of Fame and just how cool that is. Again, I think my mom just messaged me that she got her ticket today for that, nice. And so she's excited, for that to happen. I know for me, like it's kind of a crazy thing, when. Yes, I've grown up in NASKA and in the sport, right? But I will tell you something. When I got the opportunity to be a promoter, okay, it was not first in NASKA. So even when I came back, when that happened, and especially when I got bigger with running my tournament as a Grand Slam Open, and I became known as kind of Mr. NBL, I kind of thought those days of ever being in a NASKA Hall of Fame or a tournament would be over because, the enemy now, right? So for me to be, in Toronto's Hall of Fame, now in the Ocean State, which is one that I grew up competing with as a kid. And, the first time I was on stage, I was 11 years old, and like last year being on stage at 41, 30 years later, continuing that it's just exciting. And I'm just, appreciating to be appreciated, for what I've done in the sport as for all of this. So it's just pretty cool to get that. Cause I mean, again, I thought maybe that wouldn't happen.
Well, and the cynic in me agrees with you. It doesn't mean that it's right.
Right.
I thought it wouldn't happen either. Although I thought it wouldn't happen not justifiably. I thought it just wouldn't happen because I thought there's gonna rob you again, man. All right. That's what I felt. Right. I mean, how many times have we got I think people think that you've won more overalls in the last 5 years than you actually have. I think people actually believe that. But if you have to go, no, don't you remember you robbed me of that? Then they go, oh, I thought
Yeah, I
you
didn't
won
see
that. You didn't win that diamond ring. I thought that was you. That wasn't you, right? And but that's just. But you could name yada da da tournament or it's all kind of the same. And I think that we're just so used to seeing you successful that after a while, I feel like people got fatigue from just seeing you so successful.
Right. Yeah,
they were just like, you just weren't going to get the flowers that you deserved. So I'm really glad to see that happening.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And again, I think some of it too is also just where we're at now in the sport and how, again, with the Korean Challenge and now this thing with Adidas and just how, it is weird though right now. It's a lot of people think I'm only like the Korean guy. And for a long time, I was the creative guy. I was the open guy. I was, like local. Even someone today said, hey, man, I do think creative forms have a place in our sport. So keep your head up. And I'm like, and this is someone who like knew me from back when we were like 8, 9 years old. I'm like, yeah, I've kind of done everything, but it's okay. It's kind of funny. But anyways, again, guys, go check out Ocean State Grand Nationals. And we are just excited again for this big event. Like I know in the next couple of weeks, we're going to start doing predictions of who we think the top 4 will be for all the open weights. And it's going to be a lot of fun.
And even like, are we going to have a sweep again like we did like a couple years back? Yeah. It's like, all right, we're not going to have a CMX Grand. I guess we're just going to have a performance because this thing got swept. Yeah. And that would be cool. Who's going to win this or who's going to win that? That's always fun.
Yeah. I mean, right now, what's crazy is that there's a couple of things where like depending on what I compete in, I may be the person holding back that sweep. You know what I mean? So it's kind of interesting. There's a competitor right now who's right on the scene, and he is trying to win every traditional division there is, and it's pretty awesome. So congrats to the young man, Mitchell Street. So all right. So we're talking about Ocean State, talking about everything going on this week. We found out that, Larry Carnahan is stepping down. The initial statement was, appointing Hunter Lyon as new president right now. And you know what? This is the time to really just shout out. Of course he's going, John. That's why I'm excited about it, man. Legacy of, sorry, got all off track. But to talk about the legacy of Larry Carnahan, you know what? And, I was just on a phone call with someone telling me about, like where this happened at. And, like 1987 was when, they changed the name to turn it into NASKA instead of NSKA. It was NASKA to include Canada. And I think Mike McCoy talked about that when we were on the show, right? And I think yeah. Caesar Bukowski was the first president. And then he was gone after that first year. And Larry was voted in as the president. And, from 1988, that's to 2006, 2026, that's insane. Right. And you know what, like he's done an amazing job and kept it afloat, kept it as the number 1 sport karate league in the nation, in North America, and the one that the world wants to come over to be a part of. That's something that I think we forget about because we talk about world leagues and, of course we talk about WACO and you see WKC and WKU, but all the Europeans want to come to the NASKA tournaments, right? If it's the US Open, if it's the Diamonds, if it's the Battle of Atlanta, if it's Ocean State, right? If it's Warrior Cup, so people from other countries want to come here. It's not just a American thing. It's become the standard of the American sport, the American aspect of our sport, right?
And as far as competition goes,
Right.
it's martial arts. Martial arts is competitive. Even before like organized competition, martial arts in its nature is always competitive. I think I can beat you. You think you can beat me? All right, let's spar. Let's see how this thing goes, And then even in that, it's just like a gentlemanly, like brotherhood, almost like it is like a brotherhood. Like, all right, let's do this. That was really fun. All right, teach me how you did that. Well, I'll teach you, but I can't really sweep like you just did. Show me how you did. And then now it starts to grow.
Right.
Then you get organized competition, something like the Long Beach Internationals, which, I mean, how long did that tournament go for?
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
And so you think about that, but then you have a circuit or what? And I listen in our chat together, I forgot that there was how crazy is that there was such a big organized circuit really before NASKA.
Yeah.
What I love a lot about what Larry Carnahan was able to do is he really was the face without being the face. He's the name. But if you go to a NASKA tournament, sure, you'll see him if you're trying to.
Mm-hmm.
But how many tournaments have you been to when he's there and you didn't even see him at all? Right?
Yeah.
It's possible.
Yeah. I mean,
because
it is possible.
The way he operates it is the same, similar to, I don't want to say same, similar to the way they operated the success of National Karate, which at that time was called Mid-America Karate. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And they went from Texas, they went to Minnesota. Why? All right. I'm glad you did. All right.
Yeah.
This guy's eternally grateful that you guys decided to do that. All right. But when they did that, John Worley was the face and the voice and the name, but Larry Carnahan did everything behind the scenes. This is from their mouths as well. I'm not saying something that hasn't been said. Right. And that he was the man behind the scenes, pulling all the strings and making everything operate so that John Worley could be the face out in front. Look at this, look at that, look at that. And then now you've got this really great tournament. Now we'll call it the Diamond Nationals. Right.
Correct.
And so he wasn't just like, he didn't take it. Right. He was voted in, right, by his fellow compatrons. Right. Like they were all there. Right. And they were like, here, we think you are the one to lead us into the future, right? Over 40 years later, we're still going. Yeah. It's amazing, right?
It
I don't know. Guys, chime in if you know a president of an organization that's been longer lasting than that.
Yeah, no. I can't think of it. Yeah, I mean, a lot of time. Yeah, so
I mean, we say a lot of things about Boyce.
Yeah. I mean, he would have been the top. He would have been that if he kept it going. I mean, honestly, it would have been the same thing. If after
Boyce was so far ahead of his time. I think the decision, some of the differences between NBL and NASKA that were different. I think Boyce was right, but it was so far ahead that it was just hard for people to wrap their mind around it if you're not used to some things like that, right? But some of the things that I loved about what Boyce did is it was like, no,
for a while, Andrew, you're right. He was
this
around for a
is
while.
the rule. This is the way things are going to go. What I loved about what I'm going to call him Mr. Carnahan. It's hard for me to call him Larry. All right.
Yeah.
What Mr. Carnahan did is if he and some of the other, decision makers saw that, like, all right, there's a glaring need to change this right now. All right, we really got to sit on this at the end after this tournament. We're going to make a decision and we're going to change this rule right now. Right. Yeah. And part of that, you look at that and go, whoa, where's your consistency? But if you know that there's a rule that needs to be changed right away and you don't change it, what kind of integrity do you have? And they've always done that. And sometimes they've had to change. They have had to change rules back too, because when culture changes, like, you just change it back. And we're going to talk about some of those changes when we talk about some of the other competitors later on in the show too. Some things I think were fantastic things to change, and some things that I'm like, you could have left that alone. You know,
So
but
yeah,
the point of us
I get what you're
always
saying.
saying, like, man, NASKA's got to fix. NASKA's got to fix that. It's only because they are the standard. They
Yeah.
are the standard, and they have a leader, and they've had a leader for decades that we can point to and say, we all want to be a part of this organization, and we all want to be on the same team. We all want to have the same goal, and this guy led us there. That's a huge thing to think about.
Andrew, I don't think he's the president anymore. I don't think he is the president anymore. Paul Ingram is. I don't think. But also, yeah, Falsani was definitely president for a really long time. I don't know how long it was.
I don't know either.
Yeah, and again, they adapted, like Brett's saying, they adapted some things from the NBL days to say, hey, this is what the competitors are wanting. This is what they're asking for. So, I think, Larry as a leader, very, kept a calm demeanor. You know what I mean? I think that's what was needed for that position, because it's really easy to get super intense about something that you care about, right? And something that you put your hard work, effort, time, everything into, right? And so you can really get defensive about that in a certain way. And he had a very good, calm demeanor, at least in front of everyone in the grand scheme of things. I'm sure, like everyone, maybe behind the scenes, he could have gotten pissed, right? He could have been a little, but I think he always, I mean, listen, like he was like the man in black, you know what I mean? Like he showed up and you knew what you were getting, right? And I think that's what was pretty cool. It's like, hey, we know what he's gonna wear, and it's true, Andrew. I haven't really either. No, it's very,
I
very.
I was just sitting here thinking about it. And listen, personally, I've probably given this guy some things to get upset about and lose his cool. Personally, right?
Yeah.
But over everything, I don't think I've ever seen him lose his cool either. I don't think I've ever heard him raise his voice.
Yeah.
And think about that, right? I wasn't the greatest teenager to have as far as someone who's like in a name organization at times. I felt like I'm always passionate about martial arts and love my organization. I made some dumb decisions.
Yeah.
Listen, he's got a young kid in his family that's not young anymore, right? BJ gave him some reasons, to lose his cool. All right.
Yeah, definitely.
It didn't happen.
Hey. BJ still sometimes.
I was trying to say it
sometimes could give him
a nice way, but I don't know.
Oh, love you, BJ. I tell you, I had some great talks with BJ at Diamonds this past year. Man, it was really cool.
Isn't he just the coolest guy to hang with? He's so cool.
He is. All right, so as we're getting into that, what's like Carnahan story? You probably have more than me.
Oh, I got some.
I've been around him for years, but again, like I will share some things, and even honestly, if my mom's watching, she probably has some good stories just from working with him, because we did a lot with running the helping with the banquet back in the day, and when Ken was having it and stuff, and so many other things of pushing for different divisions. Again, one thing people may not know, like there wasn't a women's team fighting division, and my mom really pushed that a lot when we had Team Elite in the late 90s, and then it was three-person women's team fighting, and there was only a few tournaments that were doing it. Diamonds was one of them.
At that time, were women's team fighting.
Well, our team at that time was Deshawn B, Dottie White, and then we also had Christy Starkey. So that was our that was in 99, and so 98, 99 was when that had happened. And even actually before that, I think we had Krista Shear and Bonnie Andros on the team, and also Noreen Price. We had some cool teams. So, all right, go ahead with a good Carnahan story.
It's so interesting when when you just say Carnahan story. The reason why I feel like, I got a bunch ready to go is because we just acknowledged, like, he doesn't really lose his cool. So like me, like shouting and yelling, that's white noise, right?
Yeah.
To a lot of people, because you're like, yeah, you get animated all the time anyway. So it doesn't, it's not anything that's really impactful. So here's something. You ever have somebody who's just so gifted at backhanded compliments that like you can't forget them, right? And this one was not even a compliment. This was he just backhanded, right?
Yeah.
And I haven't forgotten it. So I was engaged once before I was to Lindsay, right? And Mr. Carnahan knew this person. I invited them to the wedding. It was a very short engagement. I just told him like, hey, I'm going to give you an invitation. It's one of those things. He was like, okay, cool. Thank you. Congratulations. I'll look forward to it. When I gave him the other invitation, I said it ahead of time. I'm like, I'm talking to him, and he looks at me and he goes, this one going to stick this time? It is Mr. Carnahan, so I can't really be like, what the heck are you saying, right? I can't say that to him, right? I'm like, yeah. That's all I could think of to come back, right. But it was like, thank you, Mr. Carnahan, for making me, double check, sir. Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Best decision ever. All right. There is something that I am very grateful for. So we were just a bunch of young kids with no coach and no direction as far as like young adults who wanted to be, top competitors. And all we knew to do was to just train with each other as much as we could and just go to as many competitions as we could. We didn't have coaching. We didn't have direction. We didn't have any kind of guidance. And Larry Carnahan, Mr. Carnahan he wasn't really guiding us with that. He was just, really like, are you guys going to be at this one? Are you guys going to be at that one? And we're like, we're trying. And he goes, tell you what, I will pay for every one of your team fighting entry fees. And I'm like, wait, what? No, we're like 20 years old. We don't have 2 nickels to rub together. Kids are in college or just working part-time jobs and doing everything we can. We don't got nothing. Ain't nobody sponsored. Nobody got nothing. Right. So we're like, wow, great. And he goes, and this was his agreement. He goes, yeah, I just asked that, when you guys win, because at one point you guys are going to win. When you win the first one, just give me back the entry fee. So that's all I ask. And I'm like, you serious? He's like, yeah. I'm like, wow, this is awesome. Of course. Okay, cool. But then there was a time where we never really had to worry about it because BJ would just go get it. I'm like, BJ, is everything taken care of? He's like, yeah, I got to take care of. Well, there was a time where it was BJ wasn't fighting because he was injured. And we're like, you want to talk to Mr. Carnahan? I don't know. I never had to ask him before. It was always just taken care of. Now we got to ask. You want to ask? I don't want to ask. All right. What if he says no? You got money? I don't got money. All right. We're literally doing this at an event one time. And but it wasn't just like, yeah, we'll comp you. It wasn't one of those. I actually had to go get a check,
right,
hand it to registration, and no, we didn't get an early discount, right?
Right.
That I thought was so cool. Like he could have just been like, guys, just waive their registration fee. Never did that, right? No. He literally, I had to go to the president of the organization, get a check, handwritten, go walk over to registration, hand it to him, and say hi,
Or the team.
Yeah, I just thought that was really cool. And the integrity behind that, obviously we didn't make back his investment, a couple times we won, but how many times did he just write that check? We didn't give him nothing back. And even when we did win it for the first time, he's like, just enjoy it. Just enjoy the first one. Yeah. I'm like, we literally never paid this guy back. All right. Not one time. All right. And not because we were trying to like skirt around it. We tried. Right. So he's just a fantastic guy. His vision about martial arts is through competition, right? He wanted to further martial arts, and he truly felt that like through competition, this was going to be the avenue that he could go down that could have the biggest impact towards furthering martial arts. And you got to love the kind of integrity that he has with that, to be like, I'm not going to let this thing die. Right. And I want to see this go because of martial arts. I want martial arts to continue. Right. So if anybody else has got great Larry Carnahan stories. Throw them in here. We'd love to hear them. And when you say the man in black, does anybody look cooler in black than Mr. Carnahan? Does he even have another color?
I don't think so. I don't know. Have you ever seen him anything else?
I saw him wear a maroon tie one time.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. I feel like it was something like that, like maroon or something. I mean, he never wore like the NK colors for anything.
No, I thought it was a black uniform. That's when I came around in early '92.
I've seen him in a red uniform before, but I don't know.
Correct. But when I came around in '92,
yeah,
there was 4 people. Everybody, you made black belt, you had a red uniform. That's what it was, right? It was a big deal.
Yeah.
But there was 4 people within the organization that had black uniforms. That's all it was. All right. It was John Worley, it was Larry Carnahan, and it was Jim Albertson, and then there was another gentleman. All right. So I'm just not going to say his name. All right. So,
right.
Yeah. So, and so that's why I never knew him outside of, the black uniform. Now I'd seen him, seen pictures of him in Karate Illustrated. He was on a cover, sidekicking some guy through whatever, and it really was in his competition as well. He was one of the pioneers of American kickboxing. All right. Above the weight kickboxing. That was like a foreign thing. It never really happened before. He started doing that in the 70s. So that was a pretty big deal then too.
Right. Yeah. That's right. Derek, you're right. Drew. Yeah, he had the same uniform, black jacket and jeans. You could always count on it. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So yeah, I mean,
you might have some snakeskin boots. You might just have a clear, soft black leather, but they're going to be black and they're going to be boots.
So, man, I just feel like I always had good conversations with him, and it wasn't like super long or anything like that, but just always an appreciation for what I did as a competitor, appreciation for like supporting, even if maybe I hadn't been there in a long time. Yes. In case I had, he was always appreciated to see me back. I remember many times, even again, when I had said, I was, promoter of, NBL and such of tournaments. And the BJ actually he told me many times that BJ was like watching videos of me competing in different places and stuff. Say, hey, I saw a video of you, doing this and doing that. And so like, it was cool that BJ was always watching and showing showing Larry, Mr. Carnahan, so that, hey, this is what Jeff's doing now over there in NBL. Can't wait till he comes and competes in NASKA again. It's like, things like that. When he saw me, he made sure, hey, I saw a video of you the other day, man. It was really cool. I was like, oh, all right. Like, that's cool to say, especially when, at that time in my head, I'm thinking, oh, I'm going over here. I'm going to be looked at as the enemy. Truth is, like, I'm a NASKA kid. That's where I grew up at. And you know what? Those guys like a Larry, like Muhammad, like Mike, those guys always treated me right, and still do. So it's pretty cool.
I did have one other. Remember I told you like backhanded compliments? He did give me one backhanded compliment that maybe it's just me. I always take it like it's a backhand.
Yeah.
But he is like knives with his tone. Right. It's so cool. But like, he like the way he says something, like he'll say something and then walk away and leave you confused. Like, well, how did you just mean that? So it was like, I remember exactly what happened. I'm competing. It was the last move of the form I did. I'm at the New England Open and I tear my PCL. All right. Yeah. And I'm like, crap. Cause you land on those concrete floors and you're like, those things are unforgiving. How many people, have broken foot, land, bust up their elbow, knee injury because of services like that. Not just that one. I mean, there was other ones too. I think Compete had that. Capital Classics had that sometimes, but it was the same type of service. Anyway, so that happened to me, and I'm over here trying to figure out, like, because fighting is next.
Yeah.
All right. I took the runner up. I didn't even win. Anthony Atkins beat me. Right. So now it's like, I got to fight. Now I'm feeling like I really got a shot here. Like I can win this division, but I can't, like my right leg is effed. All right. So I'm like, okay, well, I can't kick. Well, I definitely can't stand on that leg. How can I, what can I do? And then like people are looking at me like, dude, you're crazy. You can't do nothing. You can't walk. You can't fight. And I'm like, well, no, I can't quit. So I'm going to fight.
Correct.
And Mr. Carnahan walks over and he's like, Alex, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm just trying to figure out like how I'm going to be able to do this. And he goes, Alex, the medic says you can't do this. I'm going to trust him. You can't do this. I'm like, I know, but I got to figure out a way to do it. And he goes, Alex, I've always kind of looked at you as a form guy anyway. Patted me on the shoulder and then walked away. And I'm like, the heck is that supposed to mean? Right? It's literally the way I thought. But I had to sit back later, as I'm immobile because my thing's torn. And I go, you know what? No one's ever said that about me. I always viewed myself as a fighter who dabbled in forms, right? Which is, if you look back at the end of the career, that's exactly what it was, right? But at one point, I was all right. I was pretty good. But for him to go, I always kind of viewed you as a form guy, right? Initially, I took it as a backhand. Later on, I'm like, wow, you really think that I'm to that level? You think I could be there?
Right.
All right, not bad, right? Cool.
Yeah. Right? That's pretty cool.
But that was just like but you can kind of almost hear him saying that, can't you?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy, just all the different conversations, that everybody, has had with him over the years. I remember there were a couple of years where I didn't. It was just more of a, hello, sir, and wait a minute, and I mean, you got to think of all the different people that he has met over these years, of tournaments and people that were really close with him
100%.
One point and then gone. I mean, you got to think about parents that were really involved in the league. Even like my mom was super involved. But you know what? Like, that was 94 to 2001. So like, we're talking about 7-8 years that out of his, what did we say, 48 or whatever it was, that's crazy, right? Of all the different people who have been so involved in this. I mean, you got to think of people that parents and even coordinators and all the different, and even teams that were involved in NASKA in the very early years, right? And then we're gone, yeah, like it's wild of all the different people he's had to be able to talk to and stuff, and later on, he knows he sits at his place and he's ready to take care of whatever he needs to, but also promote the league, right? And that's what I feel like he's done so great. And I'm just excited about, I feel like he's left it in a good state, right? And now we're in a great state to continue to move forward with the next step. So it's going to be exciting to see this next step coming up pretty soon. So let's share more. Let's focus about Larry right now.
When you mention teams, like, let's just think about it. Like, the way that he decided, like, we're going to put this in our night show, and it completely changed the way people approached martial arts tournaments from that point on, is when they had the West Coast demo team as a part of the Diamond Nationals. And then when they did that, he and John Worley were like, we're never going to do tournaments the same ever again. All right. And he just is like, this is what it needs to be about. People need to see this as a possibility. And we want to highlight this in our show. Right. So think about it. Before that, what was it? It was just like, who are the last two guys fighting? That is it. That's all it could be. Right. So then they made a show out of it. They made it bigger, and they made it bigger, made it more inclusive. And now it's a massive production. Gotta hand it off to them. Right. Without that, maybe it looks totally different.
Yeah. So, all right. So, congrats to Larry Carnahan all these years. Congrats to NASKA for where we are. I'm looking forward to the next leadership and everything. There's a lot of new things coming out. Actually, just a new post that just came out about, I guess, 20 minutes ago. So we probably will talk more about that next week. Okay. As we get more details and have other people on. But I tell you what, like I'm just excited to see, these next steps. I feel like one thing is that production level of some of these events has gotten to a whole nother level. And I think that's one of the ways where we're going to grow is getting us our finals ready for the next level, getting our shows ready for the next level. If it's a streaming deal, if it's something, I think people that think the Olympics is our place. I don't think there. I think it's making this making this professional, and making this something that stands on its own. So I think that's where we could be going. But you know what? You have to also treat the school owners correct. You gotta
Exactly.
push them to the next level and help them feel appreciative. And I think obviously with all these tournaments over the past year, 2 years, 3 years, continuing to grow, they're doing something right. So,
And that's not to poo-poo the Olympics.
no,
If some people love the Olympics, I mean, yeah. And if some people hate the Olympics, like, but there's justifiable reasons for that too. All right.
right.
But even if it's, this sport, skeet shooting, all right, they have to have an organization, all right, and you have to have a list of rules, right?
Yeah.
You have to have a governing body, and you have to have participants. Without that, you don't really have a sport. You have kind of like a general activity that some people do. That's nothing that you can give to the IOC. The IOC is not going to want to touch you, right? So the only way something like that could happen is if there is a good organization with members, a governing body, lists of rules that people are following worldwide.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's that, I mean, look at all the different sponsorships, like
Sure.
Red Bull, Monster. There's so many,
Yeah.
which we have, so I think, we continue to put on a great product and continue to grow and also to create opportunities for our athletes. And that's going to be the great
Right.
thing.
I think kickboxing will have its place in the Olympics, and I think that will be great because kickboxing exists longer than what sport karate has. But I think for what we do,
I don't know about that, dude.
the history of kickboxing,
well, all right, if we're talking about, I mean, Waco has not been around longer than sport, right?
I'm just saying the sport of kickboxing.
Right. Well, it depends on what you're talking about. We're talking about
All right, well, that's
kickboxing, like Muay Thai. Okay. Maybe K1, but like American kickboxing came from sport karate tournaments.
Oh, above the waist kickboxing. Yeah, that's the newest animal. 100%. I agree with you. But look at what you just.
What Waco originally came out of is what I'm saying. Like,
yes, that is true.
Evolved into everything else. So.
But even then, what you just mentioned in kickboxing, you just mentioned like 4 different types of kickboxing. So that's why I feel like that can have its place in the Olympics. And I feel like that can be great. But for really the niche of what we do, let's protect our stuff. Let's not, throw it to the wolves and be like, do whatever you want with it, because Taekwondo did that. And Taekwondo has to live with, I think older school Taekwondo was a better product than what the current style of like WT Taekwondo
it's a better product to watch. Was it a more fair product? Probably not. Right?
There you go. And there you go. But once you've opened it up and you're like, we are part of the IOC, all right, and now you start changing how scoring goes, the sport will change based off of how like it's going to go in sport, all right, in its actual competition, all right.
Yeah.
So they're tied to whatever the IOC is going to be. Like their whole sport is that now. So, which is cool. They've made their bed. They want to lie in that. Which I don't think we want to do that.
Yeah. All right. So let's get into our topic about, and I didn't even make this, but sorry.
Good. I'm excited for this one, man.
13 and under, or even, let's just not even call it 13. I mean, let's just call it like youth prodigies, right?
Yeah.
I mean, prodigies, phenoms. I mean, who are some people that you think of when you hear that? I mean, the first person I think of is Ernie Reyes Jr. That's the first one, and he probably was the first one.
He probably was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is definitely one that I thought of. When
Here's the deal. What I want to say too is
Yeah.
the reason why I wanted to say 13 under is because, all right, back then it was different, and even right now it's different. All right.
Yes.
Grands for juniors were 17 and under. Okay. 17 and under were the grands. Okay. So let's think about right now. We have a separate one for 13 and under at most of these big NASKA tournaments. Okay. But there were times where the number one person was a 10-year-old or a 9-year-old or
100%.
an 11 or 12-year-old or even a 13-year-old, Once they got to maybe be 14, that was kind of like, okay, this is your peak. There were ones that were like that, right? And even like right now, we're looking at a phenom, Judah Segal, right? All right. 14, 15, 16, he's into it, but his and he was winning, grands as 12-year-old, 13-year-old, but he wasn't winning the Warrior Cup when he was that age. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Now Jake Presley, I think, did, right? Let's even go into Jimmy. So Jimmy Pham, Casey was 14 when she started winning grands,
Yeah,
she was
saw Casey.
Yep.
Here's the beauty of like tournaments in the 90s like that, because if you won your division, we saw you, right?
Yeah.
Because there were few runoffs, right?
Yeah.
And wasn't as many divisions. There was 12 to 14 forms.
Right. And then the tournaments that did break it up, some of them like compete bluegrass, they would put all of us in the finals, all 14 of us in the finals. 1 grand, 14 people, right? Then, or they would break it down like diamonds would take just the top 4 or top 3, depending on the year, right? So you have many different ones, right? So Jimmy, I believe, he had some successes like in NBL. He was winning the overall grands at like 11, 12, right? Maybe even 10, right? But in NASKA, I believe his first one was when he was 13. I'm trying to remember, like, I know 95 was really when he took off as being like the guy, but I don't know if he ever beat Carmichael to win one when he was young.
I was just thinking the same thing. Like Carmichael's in the chat too. What's happening, Carmichael?
And talking to Carmichael today, Carmichael's first grand championship was when he was 13 at the Battleland. Okay.
Yeah.
Now another one that we're talking about would be a Seneca Luther.
That was the first name that I thought of. I'm gonna be straight with you. And I'm thinking about that when you brought this topic up to me, and I'm like, I freaking love this idea. That was the first name that jumped in my head. And then I'm like, how do we think of so many things where we have to mention Seneca Luther? Right? Isn't it kind of bonkers that we talk about Seneca Luther like every other show?
We do. Someone else messaged me the other day about that too. Like first term he went to, he remembers competing against Seneca Luther. It's like, wow.
How do you forget that guy? How do you forget? Seneca Luther was an experience. And so I know that I would say probably 80% of the people listening to this have not actually had their eye see Seneca Luther, which is okay. And you're probably not going to be able to find video unless Wally has got it, right?
Well, Marty has put some out. Yeah, Marty.
All right, cool.
Wally wasn't around. Wally wasn't filming back then in the 80s.
That's the other thing I was thinking, like it might have been before Wally. So to give context, Seneca Luther was the thing. Like if you were just like a kid who was like, yeah, I'm really good at martial arts, I did this competition, let's go to this one. He was the one that you were like afraid when you saw it because he was so intimidating. Just forms, by the way. He'd be out there, he'd have this full-on mohawk, like picture a rock guy in the 80s, whatever that mohawk is. It's that. Whatever you're picturing, that's what he had. He had that, and his uniform was like, how do you describe it? Because it was like a sleeveless.
It's sleeveless, but it was satin. But also he had a tiger print one or a lion. I mean, a tiger print one that when he did Welcome to the Jungle.
Look at that. He had a satin tiger print sleeveless uniform.
Madden. But yeah, I mean, he had a bunch of different uniforms. Okay, and so that whole
And
era
you're like whirling commas.
is what, and this was before NBL, so that's what really pushed the whole flamboyancy to the NBL. Which there's some. All right, a lot of people are sharing some really good stuff. I'm trying to get back to it.
The names you
I
guys
already
are saying.
I missed Brett's, but Brett talked about Wayne Douglas, which is
Wayne
one
Douglas
we
was-
oh my god, Valerie Bruce, which is another one on NBL and she won some overall grands at like 11, 10. Rory Bratter is one who did that. Adrian Ulanoff is one who did that. Those were guys. Some other one that I will share that when she did it, it was crazy. It was Ashley Lane. Ashley Lane with the white bow, multiple kicking in a circle,
cool.
and doing everybody was kung fu fighting, and just whooping everybody, right? And then that kind of spawned into before that, actually, even Ebony Adams has won some before. Jennifer Santiago, we talk about Bernard Ambrosia. I mean, there's so many great competitors, but Gemma Nguyen coming in as 9, 10-year-old and winning grands 17 and under.
And I think that's the biggest
about Rudy. When Rudy comes in as a little kid, you can tell, okay, this is something different, right? And then eventually he was in the middle of that part where they switched it and split it to, he started where it was the 17 under days, and then it went on to where it was the 13 under and 14, 17 days.
I think at that point he
Matt
was.
Emig is another one. Matt Emig is another one, I would say.
Matt Emig is another one.
Yeah.
I don't think this person had that kind of success, but like Ryan Pinkston. But Ryan Pinkston, you knew who Ryan Pinkston was. He was decently successful because of the team formed with Anthony Atkins. That was fun. That was cool.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I could say that, like, yeah, you're a talented prodigy, right? He didn't have the individual success that everybody else we named has had. But I mean, at that time, how many, when you say like 2000 to 2003, how many guys that were that young had that kind of success? There was quite a few,
Yeah.
So Butch Marks is fantastic. I think he was, but I actually think Butch had his most success when he was like 16,
when he was 14, 15, 16 was when he really 17.
And when he was 17, there was that year, it was like nobody was as good as Butch, right? So
when he was 16,
but let's go back to when you were mentioning Wayne. So Wayne Douglas, so and really humble, because I mean he might have been 10, might have been, all right, and was just really loving being in that environment. His dad Rick really just immersed him into this, being like, he's that good. Let's ride it until he doesn't want to. Let's just keep going. You want to do this? We've got, if we can get the resources to do it, let's do it, because let's go. I remember there was a time where he and Jimmy Pham tied for a weapons grand. All right. They had to do their forms again. And it looked like it was a tie again. They announce Wayne's the winner. And Jimmy's like patting him on the back. And Wayne stops. He's like stunned, can't move. He's looking up at Jimmy like, you what? Like, you're about to win. And he's like, wait, they're calling his name. And he's like, wait, what? All right. And it was just such a cool moment, because that was essentially like what I remember mostly from his martial arts competition career, is just being this really, in the true sense of the word, the absolute phenom. I'd never seen anybody that fast before and be that good. And just be so humble about it too. Like, literally didn't even think that he should belong, competing.
Well, and I think the same thing with like with Gemma, when she was competing, even I think maybe one year she competed against Casey before Casey. Actually, no, she didn't. It was Stephanie Flowers that she was competing against before Stephanie moved up, right? And had a lot of success, right? And you know, you have those guys. You have Wayne. Jimmy was that person years ago. You know, in a lot of the circuits that he did a little bit of everything. Right, he was a star in NBL, and one that we're forgetting about because we talk about him so much as an adult was Kim Do. Kim Do came
Thank
on the
you.
scene
Yes.
as 10, 11-year-old, killing everybody with John Purnette's song, and doing it to and putting a whole nother twist to that form. I think he won in '91 because I know at Battle of
Yeah,
Atlanta.
he was in the freaking movie. He was in the Sidekicks
Yeah,
movie.
and he was 11, 12 then. So that was someone, and then he took a break, right? And we're gonna get to that, Drew, because
Yes.
we're kind of talking about before the split, right? And now we're
Yeah.
gonna talk about after that. Another one that was from the '80s that was one who had a lot of potential and was kind of traveled all over the world with like Junri was Dietrich. All right, so we talk about Michael Dietrich, but his younger brother. And why am I having a? Hopefully, someone can help me with it. Maybe Carmichael will help me with this. But his younger brother was a phenom. All right, blonde hair, like a blonde hair bowl cut in the mid '80s, late '80s, and this guy was traveling around kicking, and he was kind of put to be like that next guy, like the next Ernie Reyes, right?
All right.
And so and then he just eventually got out of it. Michael stuck with it, and he got out. Yeah, Richard. There we go. Richard Dietrich. He was good. He could kick, man. His ability was awesome. So, and again, later on, like he had success when he was he had success when he's like 15, 16, 17. That was David Oakley, and he had a very long run in the junior ranks. But even before that, he's been around for years. So we're talking about those. If there's any, Guy Burkett. I'm sorry, I can't go on without.
Oh man.
When Guy Burkett won the Ocean State Grands in '95 over Jimmy, Kingston Ing, Butch Marks, all of these high level people, it was like, whoa. And Guy was younger than me. I was 11, 12. So he was in the 9 and 10 division that year that he won, right? And I remember him competing at Diamonds in '93, making it to stage and winning like the 8 and under division. And people would be like, dude, this kid could be the one that gets the crowd going and wins this whole thing, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and Guy is doing great right now, and still doing martial arts. So pretty
That's
cool,
fantastic.
man. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right. So as we get into that next group, right, when it did split, right? I definitely think Dallas Lou. I saw the other day a Dallas Lou form. I was sitting there like, good Lord, man. And now he won some overalls in NBL when it was all ages, right? And and there were some other ones that did that as well. But dude, like Dallas Lou, like when you saw him, like what'd you tell me before? You thought, okay, this is the next Rudy, right? Rudy Reyna.
100%. I thought he was going to be the next Rudy.
Yeah. Yeah. And Rudy was one of those as well, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Now, as far as when we get into that 13 under, there's been so many. There's some that are adults now competing. Haley Glass, of course. We had years ago where from like I think she won from when she was 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Isabella, right? Bella. She won like everything for all those years, right? How do we keep these competitors when they have dominant so long in the 13 under? That is one of the things that we, hopefully our next step could go towards, right? Yeah, Danny as well. Danny Ekin, Isabella,
Well, here's what I will say is what I love about the culture. I mean, we were literally talking earlier about, the direction of the leadership, where they're guiding, the direction of the circuit and competition. I do like the notion to say like, hey, we want to keep these people as much as possible. We want to keep them feeling like, they're winning some things. Let's make a 13 and under grand and a 14 to 17 grand. We don't want them to feel like, oh, they're never going to win. I don't agree with that, because
yeah,
I mean, we're also seeing the fruits of, like, all right, what is the point of them doing it when they're 21? What is because to win, Amerikick again?
yeah,
If they're that good and they've
right.
won it when they were 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, what is the point now? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so unless they were just a guy who was like, loves martial arts and they were close to that, never quite made it there. And they were like, yeah, I mean, those competitors exist. And
Yeah,
that's what the majority of this is about. The majority of us won't win an overall championship, right?
right, right.
If that's who you're catering to, right? Why are we adding so many of the other grands? You're benefiting one other person, but you're diminishing the grand itself, right? If you're really not, you're helping one person, but then that one person you're helping, you're also enticing them to not want to continue going on. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying here?
I get what you're saying. All right,
I feel
so
like you shoot yourself in the foot.
So some people just feel like the value of our sport is simple, kids and film. All right. So that is what I was sent today. All right. That, like back in the day, it was, hey, we want to get on that stage so that way we could be seen by scouts to go to Hollywood, to go to this or that, right? Back then, we didn't have all the video and TV deals, but we had magazines. And so that was a whole different level. And truthfully, like Black Belt Magazine never really embraced like the kids, as far as the kid stars, right?
Okay.
So that's an interesting take on that, right?
But I would push against that. I would push against that big time, right?
Well, because what are we looking at? Are we looking at, is this sport just here just to push people into something else? Our sport should be able to stand on its own, right?
Correct.
That's what I would think, right? And because truthfully, they're always going to be a martial artist, right? First, but
correct. But the reason why I would push against the notion of like wanting to be seen and wanting to get out there, so that we can move on to bigger and better things. Like, you're going to need a talent agent for that anyway. All right. So that doesn't mean anything. And if that was true, then Shaquan Parsons wouldn't be like the most viral person in the history of our sport. You know what I'm saying?
True.
So it's like Shaquan and maybe some of Raymond's kickboxing highlights, right?
Yep.
So
that's true. Yeah.
And Shaquan Parsons, love him, a phenomenal athlete. He does give credit to being this, open martial arts competitor. But listen, he did all that stuff flipping in his yard with a sword,
Yeah. Yeah.
he didn't even need the tournament,
Correct. That's true. That is true. Right. So I mean, yeah, it's a whole different era. One more. Oh, there's not one more. There's a bunch of young ones, man, that did so amazing. But Sage Northcutt is someone that we forgot about. Sage Northcutt, dude, like that guy, and even Colby, before, right?
Yeah.
I think that dude, like, even when he wasn't winning, he was a phenom. You know what I mean? Like, he was winning his grands. He was everywhere. Even if like when he would go to NASKA and just fight, everyone just knew, all right, that's Sage Northcutt. That's something different.
Yeah.
That's a star, right? We're talking about a lot of forms competitors, right? Was there someone that you thought of when you saw as a young kid, like, oh, that's the future, or that's going to be a superstar? Sage would be one of those fighters, right? I would think that a lot of people saw and thought, oh, this kid's going to do something.
The most recent is Bailey,
right?
And that's most recent, but that's still, 11 years ago. Jalen Carr, DDB, great point. Jalen Carr. Jalen Carr was absolutely won.
So for me,
it's
I
hard
would say it was
because
Bobby. I say it was Bobby Cerronio Jr. is who I would say, and Brett just put
yeah,
on after I said it. He was that guy, and at that point, NBL fighting was still known as, especially junior fighting, was known as
more
like
athletic.
where the top people were coming from, right? Cass is a good one, but
But see,
Cass
it's
at that
hard
time
though because there was plenty of guys when they were like 15, 16 that you thought,
yeah,
oh, they could win now, right?
yeah,
They're going to be something. Like when Kevin Walker was like 14, like,
yeah,
you thought like, ooh, he could be really good. But you
yeah,
also had seen what he was when he was 14. Like you'd seen that before, you know? But you clearly knew that like he was going to be good. And I think Ross, like DDB, when you say like Ross Levine, yeah, when Ross Levine was 16, we
yeah.
knew that like, yeah,
He's going
this
to
guy
be.
all he has to do is just keep competing and he's going to beat everyone, right? But
I
when you're
truthfully,
that young
mm,
as a fighter,
I think of
I
two people really.
who do you got?
Jennifer Santiago, and
Yeah.
Ebony Adams. Those were the two, bro. Like those two at 9, 8, 9, 10 years old, everyone went to their division to watch, especially when they were fighting each other. And it wasn't even close because here's the deal: back in the day, not every tournament divided boys and girls. They wanted
Yes.
to
That's
see
where
both of them whoop all the guys, and they would too.
and
And
they
that's what
had a
was
little
cool.
advantage because they're physically gifted and just call it how it is. Girls matured earlier than boys. And so
Right.
now, and they're really freaking good. So now
Yeah.
they get to go out there and put these boys on a highlight reel.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true, man. Yeah, Malachi's done some great things. We got a lot of different people. So again, when we're just talking about these youth, and again, I want to say like 13 and under, just because you still have 4-5 years before you turn adult. To stick with that is hard. We've talked about some people
Oh,
in the beginning, right? We've talked about that people in the beginning, and maybe they faded out during their teen years, and then they came back as an adult, right? You know? Yeah, I mean, Joe
I got a
Pikus.
couple that popped in. I don't know. I heard like a lot about
Yeah,
Chris Walker when he was a junior. I didn't see him or
well,
Joe. I saw Joe when he was a teenager.
one of the things that Chris stayed pretty much local for a long time
Yeah.
in Florida, but he always did the battle, always did US Open, did those tournaments. Maybe did bluegrass here or there, but he didn't really go full out like into the circuit until he was an adult. So that was a little different, with that.
But he was someone that like guys knew of him. All right.
Mhm.
And then there'd be some people who were going to be seeing him for the first time. And they were like, oh, I remember seeing him for the first time, not knowing who the heck this guy was. And Butch Marks being like, Dingman, you got to see this guy over here. I'm like, what's he doing? He's going to do a standing
Yeah,
full twist with a flash kick. And I'm like, he's going to do freaking what? No, he's not. All right.
Yeah, yeah.
If you did that at that time, you were like a sorcerer. You're like, what the heck is this?
Correct.
Since we were talking about fighters, there was a few that popped in my head. Robbie Lavoie.
Yeah.
Robbie Lavoie, absolutely a phenom because, Robbie was short. Robbie's always been undersized. He's always been. I don't think he didn't have obviously didn't have a huge growth spurt, right?
Yeah.
But he was probably always about at the same, height to sparing, like all the way. Right. I've always seen him. He's just a little shorter, than everyone else that he's fighting, but always a ton faster and more skilled. Right. Another one I would say is
Jack
Damian
Felton.
Rodriguez.
Yeah.
Rodriguez was fantastic, phenom. He was one of because I think
Yeah.
back about the juniors that were going to be in the next couple of years that were going to be like really good, and there was a few like can't miss. Like this guy's going to be phenomenal, Robbie. Right?
Yeah.
We talk about Bailey, Ross, Damian Rodriguez was one of those guys.
Jack, though, yes, I know, but again, so Damian was someone in what 13 under? Are we talking about, or are we just talking about teenagers now? Because that's where we kind of switched. We're talking 13 under. So Jack was someone who was winning at 9 and under divisions, 10, 11 divisions, 12, 13 divisions, everything on both circuits, right? So again, Chelsea is one that people forget. She had been winning since she was a little girl, right? I mean, yeah, it's just wild with all the different ones. You know, we've talked about, you know, Plowden talked about he didn't have Morgan and Avery doing that much when they were younger. You know what I mean? And really focusing on them doing other things and then really getting into it when they got closer to being adults, right? So it's everyone has a different take on this, right? I don't know, man. I just know that let's one question we got to talk about now. Who was the last person who was 13 under to win a Warrior Cup? I feel like as far as for me thinking about it, it probably was Jake.
Jake Presley?
Yeah, Jake Presley, I think. I know that Avery, I think, was 14 when she won. I think. I'm not sure. I know that let's see some different comments from different people who know about that.
Well,
let's talk about Michael's comment. We knew Brian was going to be a phenom since he was a triple threat. The circuit was able to retain him through a solid period of his adult career as well. Yeah,
you're right.
But he was back then. He did everything. Yeah, I mean, he did forms, weapons, fighting, and he did it from a young age. You know, he was still in that group.
When did the split between 13 and under and 14 to 17 happen? What was that year?
I feel like it was around 2004, but I don't know.
No, that was the Creative Extreme year.
Yeah, but I feel like that was a change.
Did it happen at the same time? 2005?
Probably, because a lot of times when they make these, it was 2004.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, that's a good point.
They do big bulk changes at once, right? So I feel like that's when it was, because I remember going to tournaments that year and just the grands being that way and not it being that way before. But I'm not sure. All right. Brian was built like a 17-year-old at 12. Yeah. Another one that was built that way too when he was Ryan Huntley. Okay. So Ryan Huntley was someone that won like so many years in a row of his NBL world title and fighting. And everyone was just ready for him to get to adults to see him dominate. And the thing is, two other people decided to really say, no, we are going to do this. And that was Jason and Raymond, you know? So,
but see, look at what Carmichael's saying.
Yeah. Compete 9 13
divisions. Though. So that was in 1990. Here's the 13 to 14 division. And then here's the 15 to 17 division.
That's what it was. And then when there was 11 and 12 division. Yeah.
113 divisions in each. Right? Because it was 13 to 14 forms. Maybe there was weapons. No, in 1990. In 1990.
No, in 1990 there was only 5. So it was weapons, I believe, was 10 and under. Then 11 and 12, 13, 14, 15, 17. So 4. They may have had 1 musical weapons. I think that was later on. So it might have just been those 4 divisions. Now in forms, it was 8 and under, 9 and 10, 11 to 12, 13, 14, 15, 17. And then they had one music. They had one music. 12, 13.
I thought it was 12 to 14.
No. 13, 14. Like he just said, it was 13, 14.
I know. I see what he said.
Yeah. No. That's what it was. Even in 94 when I started, that's where it was. And then there was the musical division for a few years. It was 17 under. And then they split it 13 to 17, 12 and under. So you had 7 for forms and then like 4 or 5 for fighting. I mean, sorry, forms. Weapons, my bad. Jeez. Drew, you're right. He was the first to divide up because when I went to his tournament, they split up boys and girls, and a lot of the other ones didn't. The only ones that did as well was Bluegrass did it a lot. U.S. Open did it a lot, but
And I
actually,
think they
US
just had so many numbers. That's why.
and then Diamonds did it a lot, right? So, yeah.
But that's always the argument to like, well, we don't have enough competitors to justify splitting, but then maybe you're not getting the competitors because you don't split, you know? And I mean, obviously there's plenty now. Here's what I will give it. I will give, and let's go back to who we were crediting to begin with, which was Larry Carnahan,
Yep,
right?
Larry Carnahan. Continuing to adapt and adjust, right?
Yes, right. Is definitely forward thinking in that, listen, when we mentioned triple threat, right? That's a big deal. Triple threat, forms, weapons, fighting. That was all there was. And the weapon was the new one, right? In the like 1990, I think that's when it was like, let's create a weapons championship. There was tournaments where your form division, it could be a traditional form, it could be a Chinese form, it could be a bow form, right?
Yeah.
And if this is where 13 to 14-year-olds do their form, you get to pick one, whatever one you want to do, go. All right. And now we have a CMX grand and a traditional grand for the age division,
right?
For the girls. Like how bonkers is that? All right. To go boys and girls together, anything you want, let it happen. Wow. He said he took fifth behind John
Valera. I think it was Jeff Sue, Mike, when you say Mike Chat, and then Eddie. Yep. So yeah, it was pretty wild. I forgot Eddie's last name, but Eddie was a big competitor. Huh?
Eddie Landa?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
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 I'll pat myself on the back for that one.
Oh, look at you. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting to look back at that and the different competitors we had. Aiden Kennedy is someone who, I think about as well. These guys,
like
Jake Presley is someone that, did it big time. Jackson, people were pumped about him when he was younger, I mean, even younger ones, like, dude, I remember seeing like Loop Kicks camp, right? And watching Mackenzie Emery, right? Watching Mackenzie Emery as a young little girl, right? Doing her form, like, oh, okay, this is a whole different level. The same thing with Dallas. Like when, like that video came out a couple of days ago, I was just sick. Definitely sick. For me, there was a couple kids on the NBL circuit, besides we talked about Roy Bratter and some of those guys that were the 11 and under was the age group then. You're like, man, I don't want to get into grands with this person, and that would be like like honestly, Josh Durbin back in the day was like that, in NBL.
We're not saying, let's listen, back in the day, it was so much better. We had so many more. We are not saying that. We are simply saying, let's talk about them because, I mean, like the guys that we're mentioning now, in theory, if it was not split so much like that, if 13 and under and 14 to 17 were combined, how about let's just have the conversation right now, Jeff? Is there anybody that if we got rid of the 13 and under and 14 to 17 could win, whether it be form or weapons?
I mean, we're seeing a lot of that right now, it is tough. We the only time we see it is the Warrior Cup. It hasn't been as great for them, as maybe it had been in the past, like Wayne won a Warrior Cup back in the day when he was, way younger than everybody else. Matt Emming won one when he was way younger than everybody else in the, I think it was 2000, I believe. And then I think Wayne won in 2001. So yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. That's tough. Again, a lot of people say, I think some of the times maybe when he was 13, Judah, but Judah really became Judah when he was 14, And I mean, but he was there. Everyone was ready for it. Like, oh man, this is going to be crazy.
Well, and that makes sense. I mean, think about it. 14 years old. Look at the boost of testosterone that boys get, right?
Yeah. Tyler was a star at a young age as well, and that is very true. And doing the shows on
Had
TV.
that hair too.
Yeah, definitely one. Is there anyone traditional wise that I mean, I know, like we're seeing, Amanda had her first, a good run, her first time up in 14 and 17. She had an amazing 1300 career. We're seeing,
I know.
Maddie.
Wasn't she your teammate, Ida Henley?
That was someone I meant to say earlier. Ida Henley won when she was 12, the 17 under grand in traditional, but she also won some weapons grands too. Like, or she was, so yeah. And Caitlin was that
Caitlin
one
Deschelle.
that was Caitlin Deschelle. Ida Henley, Caitlin Deschelle. Still feel like we're missing. I mean, we talked about Ashley Lane. Ashley Lane was a phenom.
Well, and here's the thing.
Conception as a young girl was really good. And then she had a break and then came back later on, as an adult.
This is a testament to how much the sport levels up, all right?
Mm-hmm.
Is take a junior when she was a junior, take someone like Noelle Jillison, right? If you took her and dropped her into 1998, you'd be like, well, this is a sorcerer, right?
Right.
This is not real life. What the heck is this, right?
Right.
And she was, and I don't think we would go, oh man, she was everyone should talk about the phenom she was. I think she was very freaking good, right?
Yeah.
And I think everybody should, if you're going to talk about who are some of the best that could, really pioneer CMX for girls. I mean, I think she's one of them that you bring up. I don't think you say she's the best. At one point, she was battling to be the best, woman's, forms competitor in the world. Sure. With Sammy and Haley, I think she was right there. But I mean, that's a testament to how much the sport is just getting better and better and better and better. Right?
Correct. Yeah. Pretty crazy, man. All right.
What a fun one, right?
Yeah, this has been a fun one.
You guys were awesome chiming in the chat too. You guys were throwing us so many great ones. Thanks so much for doing that.
Correct. Guys, we're excited about Ocean State Grand Nationals. We're going to talk some more. We're going to have some different special guests over the next few weeks talking about Ocean State, also probably talking about NASKA in the future, what's going to be, happening there. Also, I got some guys to talk about the IKF, which is what I've been talking about for the Grand Slam Open, the sport of point kickboxing and Muay Thai, and how we can, some ways of adding that to our events. We also may even talk more with about Adidas and all the different things going on. We really hope we get a couple special guests that we will be able to see at Rhode Island. So yeah, that's the name. Yeah, Ryan Wells is definitely one. Andrew, I like it. We got a future one, Gabby. Awesome. And Alistair Fransky
before the show too. That's great. Yep.
All right. Well, this weekend there's a lot of great events coming up, so make sure you guys go and support your martial arts tournaments and get out there and enjoy the sport. Also, guys, download that main app. All right. Definitely download the main app. And if you haven't watched any of our docuseries and streams, go watch them. There's so many great ones. The AKA one was a great 2-part series that we had, and definitely gets you behind the scenes and behind the lives of Amber Rutherford, Philip Brumet, Kevin Walker, and Tyreek Saint. And then we have tons of great just conversation. I mean, from just legends, we got Mike Smith, Terry Kramer, EJ Greer, Tony Young, Mike Smith. I mean, Anthony Price. It's wild. And then, you know, Chris Walker right there with him. So go and check those out. There's going to be more coming. And yeah, thank you, Carmichael. Thank you so much. And yeah, lots of local events. Smack, Marty Eubanks has a tournament, Freedom Cup, so many great events. So, all right, man.
This has been another episode of Inside Scoop with Alex and Jeff. I'm Alex Dingman.
I'm Jeff Doss. See you guys next week.